Joanne Groves, how are you? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me here.
Glad that you could make it. We've been trying to get this together for a while. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your time. Joe, where do you start? Where did you come from in the fitness industry and how did you get involved? What's your background, the origin story?
The origin story, the truth is, Rachel, I was an actress. And at the time, I was kind of battling to get work. And, like anybody that goes, well, I've got to kind of look the part when I go for an audition, but I can't afford to join a gym. So I started off as a receptionist and then thought, I want to teach classes. So I started teaching classes. And then I thought, I want to do PT. And then before I knew it, I was signing myself up to run a cycling company and started presenting. I mean, that's going back 2001 when I started presenting in the cycling stuff. But yeah, so basically, it was because I was too tight to pay the membership of the gym and thought, I know I'll work there. And then when sort of fast forward, so this is about 30 years ago, and then when I had my son, I do remember it was my last acting job. And, and let's just say that my boobs were getting bigger by the minute. And the director said to me, your top sort of gaping, perhaps go and express. And then I came back and did my acting role. And then after that, I thought, you know what? I'm really loving the fitness industry and I want to fully commit to this.
Yeah.
And yes, it kind of got hold of me, is what I would say, and I love it. And now I get to use my acting skills, which I'm sure my mum and dad are pleased about because they spent a lot of money putting me through drama school.
Oh, that's it. Well, I didn't know that. And I look at your social media and I often think, wow, she's so theatrical well, now I know. I had no idea. So you can bring it all together because you are very funny on social media and you don't take yourself too seriously, do you, on that? And you really are a fun person to watch on social.
I don't mind making an idiot of myself. The amount of times I've done things where I've been swinging on rings and fallen into a wall, or I don't know about you, but I remember teaching a class in Cannons years ago, body step, and I'd spent so many hours like rehearsing, and I just fell off the stage. Did too many grapevines and just woof. So yeah, I don't think we can take ourselves too seriously. Yeah.
I agree. So where does that leave you now in 2024? What is your sort of working week like? How do you split your time through all the different things that you do in the industry?
Well, I'm sure like you, it's a challenge, and having a bit of structure helps. I work with Faster Health and Fitness, and so we run courses from level two, level three, level four personal trainer, and then I help out with the motor skill application specialist. So when someone really, if they're the sort of person that gets a little bit worried or imposter syndrome or thinks, is this really the best exercise? They'll come and do that. And so that's part of my love because I really, really enjoy helping trainers combine their group exercise, become that hybrid trainer, and really sort of seeing their confidence grow. So that to me is a big part of it. So the social media for that, the content for that, we've just got some new exciting modules in there as well. And then I have my own clients. So, and I think it's really important if we are educating that we are still trainers ourselves. So I still do my own group sessions and I do my one-to-one personal training clients, and they're marvelous and they're always inspiring me and keeping me on my toes. So it's split between my personal clients, then my students, and so also I run a group called Female Fitness Trainers, which is at the moment purely to help women in the industry have their voice.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of different hats, isn't it? Wearing them.
Oh, and
Um,
a wife, and a mother
a
of a
mom.
dog. I've got a noodle.
There's a lot.
I sleep here.
Your personal clients, let's take those first. I think I've seen videos that you put on of your personal clients. And are you all outside? Do you train in the local area, in the local parks, and or are you in a gym base? I don't think I've ever seen you in a gym. I think it's always been outside work I've seen.
No, I did my sort of 15 years in a gym, and and I'm very fortunate because I no longer need to do the sort of 6 a.m. shifts and all of those sorts of things, which is marvelous. I have one of my clients who has his own gym, but most of my clients, they either come to my garden or we go to the park, which is brilliant. And before lockdown, we were doing online. So I have quite a few clients that are also in the States. And so that was already in place. And obviously, then lockdown made that all just even more acceptable, and oh, this is the new norm. So that's been really helpful and nice to be able to. It's slightly annoying because I have clients that turn up and they're on the beach, and I'm like,
Yeah.
really? That's not fair. It's 4 o'clock and dark here.
Absolutely. No, that's not fair. I think as well, if people see, have noticed you on social media and they may have seen you training clients, they may be interested in your special mat. And I see all the comments underneath. And I think if anyone's maybe not, is not aware of faster and functional training and the history of that brand, tell us a little bit about your method and your map, because I read the comments under some of your videos and people are mesmerized by it and the whole thought process behind it. So do you want to give us a quick overview?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that John, who's the
I do,
founder
yeah.
of Faster Health and Fitness, and he might make you do press ups though, because this is whole thing that if we call it a mat, we have to do press ups.
Oh, I didn't know. What's it called? What is it called?
You're absolutely, I'm only teasing. It's called the Faster Hub.
Hub. Okay, faster hub.
Yeah. So coming from the hub of training,
Yes, very good.
and from the outside, it looks like a Ouija board
It
or
does.
something, because you've got dots on it, you've got numbers on it, you've got different portals, we call them triangles. But to someone who's one doing group exercise, it's a really great way of telling everybody where they need to be within that space. So we
Yeah.
have one that's reversed for the teacher, and then we have the other hubs that they're all following their pattern. So you can just say the number and somebody can take their leg there or their elbow there or their shoulder there. But then on a one-to-one basis, it's super cool because it means that we're able to use external targets to help somebody overcome a movement puzzle, because that's all
Mm.
it is. And we can make sure that they are self-organizing their body. And there is so much research around motor skill learning and how if we allow our clients to unconsciously or self-organize their body, it's a much faster way of helping them learn and progress. So it shortcuts and it takes away all the micromanagement. So it's tough. Like when you're in a Pilates session or a group exercise session, we're taught to fire these coaching cues out. And while some of them are necessary for a setup, a lot of the time it becomes too much. And someone's so busy thinking, like, I remember when I was doing body pump and I'm like, knees in time with toes, shoulders pulled back and down, scapula pulled in, navel pulled in. That's 90%, 30%, knees in line with second and third toe. And the poor person's brain is just going, and they're there for the sort of, seventh year. And yet they don't actually know how to do the movements. And that's because they're not given the space to self-learn and self-organize. And it's you can just be so I'm quite OCD. So you can be super detailed. You can go, right, okay, you're going to put your right foot forward into number 3, but I want you to take your left hand over to the number 4 whilst taking your hand over here. And I know, right, okay, I've just got more adduction in the hip, more sexy side bottom or glute med, however you want to put it, So you can really be detailed as a trainer, but to the client, it's like playtime. It's like
Twister. Yeah.
Twister. Yeah, exactly. So it's Christmas Twister.
It is. It's an amazing. Do you develop it into a Group X program, or is it mainly, do you use it mainly one to one?
Well, watch this space.
Okay. It would be a great Group X
This
program.
first here.
I can imagine. That would be amazing.
Yes, and it's great because one, in a gym concept, you can own your space. And
Yeah.
obviously like busy times, and it is saying, look, right, I've got my hub
Mm.
here, give my client that space there. But you can also use it that outside of the numbers, you might have a deadlift, or you might have a reformer,
Mm.
or so you can now start to grow the concept with it. And then with group exercise, as I've mentioned, it's very, very easy to choreograph a routine on there, and use those different portals. So maybe you have to
Awesome.
have a go
Oh,
on.
I'd love to. Could you, and you could work it with music as well, couldn't you? You could put it together with music. Fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
So,
leave that to the choreographed experts that are listening to your podcast.
yes, I love that idea. So that's in development then at the moment. How exciting. Oh, I'll keep us posted with that for sure. Your love of research is also very evident, and I know that you like to maybe what's the word? You like to maybe advise on other trainers who are, and often quite high celebrity trainers who may be leading the public into a particular direction. You're very vocal, and I think this is very necessary to often point out where celebrity trainers are maybe misleading the public, shall we say. Do you enjoy doing that? How does that?
I would say, like a naughty school kid, make sure that I've probably had my moment of, when you get really passionate about something, and I may have been a little bit too vocal in the past. And let's just say we're all learning. So what I try to do now, I feel like I'm maturing slightly. Um, it's not necessarily get into arguments or debates, but I will try and, I think that we do need to be accountable, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. So I'm on the CIMSPA board, the committee, to try and make sure that we are asking those questions, and we're going to improve the industry. What I don't like is when people are in positions of power, they're in position of leading education,
Mm,
and they're not holding their hand up when we got it wrong,
mm,
because there's a lot of things that we have got wrong, and really we could do with a bit of a fitness amnesty and go, you know what, that's not quite what we thought.
mm,
And there are still products out there that are being sold under a made up name of something that doesn't even exist. And it's really, really hard if the product itself doesn't exist, or a technique doesn't exist in research, because then you can't have a conversation
mm,
about its validity. So for me, I am really passionate about that. And also because around 15 years ago, I was doing everything the fitness industry had told me to do. I was like most people that are running 20 group exercise classes a week and personal training clients. I was foam rolling all the time. I was stretching. I was doing all of these things. And I got an injury. So I'm out running, and all of a sudden, that does not feel great. And that didn't feel great turned into me being a bad mum. I felt myself being miserable. I was snappy. And finally, I, put it off for a while, but I went to the doctor, and they said, yeah, meniscus tear, you need an operation. And so I was gutted, because I was thinking, hang on a minute, I've been doing everything that the industry told me to do. I mean, back then I had a six pack, I was lifting loads and all of those sorts of things. And I thought, well, what am I missing? And it was at that point where I had started with my faster journey. And John said to me, oh, this course you did with us? Well, we were wrong. And I was like, what? And I was like, oh, is that another 2 grand that I've got to spend on the next course? Marvelous, brilliant. And he was like, no, we have this thing that if you do a faster course, then you can come back as many times as you like, and you don't pay again. And you would think that was nice, but that's when he said, no, Joe, you've been in this industry for 15 years already. You shouldn't be trusting me. Like, you should have the tools to be able to challenge the research yourself. So bear in mind, I'm an actress, that, my degree was just dressing up and running around Wood Green. So the thought of actually going to PubMed and reading hundreds of studies didn't excite me, and I thought I couldn't do it either. I was dyslexic at school. I really thought that that wasn't something that I could do, and it turns out it's not as
Not as
difficult as I
hard.
thought. And the beautiful thing is that we all do the things that we do with the best of our knowledge at that time. And in the past, I have done a lot of techniques that I now wouldn't use, but I hadn't read the research then, and that's fine. But now I do. So now it means that if I get the question wrong, and then I relook, or I find a different way of asking that question, and it leads me down a different route. Let's just say, up until now, I thought that getting faster at sprinting, if you stroke a guinea pig 4 times, then you get faster, and like all my clients stroking guinea pigs because like it worked
Works
for
for
me.
me.
And in my clinical experience, it's worked with my clients. But then if I go, well, that's a really poor level of research, my clinical experience, that's a real poor level of research, on an N equals 1. So now I want to raise that bar of research, and I go to the studies, and guess what? It no longer brings me back to guinea pigs. So well, now I can go, well, that's fine because I loved the guinea pigs while they were there, but now there's something better. And so it means that I'm no longer emotionally attached to the product, to the method, and I can move on. And that's really helped me with like writing the module in motor skill application specialist, particularly around the climacteric period, because there's a lot of misinformation out there at the moment. There's a lot of menopause experts. And and I think it's really important that people have the tools to be able to challenge that research and know where it's coming from.
And interestingly, now research is easy to access
Yeah.
via ChatGPT, via Perplexity, via PubMed, by Google Scholar. It's all there, isn't it? Do you want to share? Maybe some of our listeners would be interested in going down the research rabbit hole and start to look at things. Can you give anyone any tips of where to start, or how they would start to get better at reading and looking for the right research?
First thing I would say is be really careful if you're using ChatGPT. I have had it suggest few research studies that are in the future.
Oh, it makes it up, doesn't it? If it doesn't know the answer, it will make it up.
Like a class A cheat.
Mm, absolutely.
But the biggest challenge is sifting through the masses of research that is of lower quality.
Mm,
And I see a lot on Instagram where people are going through a study as if, well, this study says, it's like,
yeah.
that doesn't matter. It's actually, what does the balance of hundreds of studies say? That's what we should be using to underpin what we're doing. And the question has to be relevant to the client. I Let's just say in my younger days when I was a little bit more feisty, but let's just say there was an educator that I happened to, it wasn't me, it wasn't my fault. Somebody wrote on their thread, you should tell so and so why they shouldn't do XYZ. And I said, they can do what they like. And this person came on and roared at me. They were quite a big presenter in the US. And they started off, which is quite interesting, with, do you know who I am?
Oh.
And as it said, Dr. So and so, so and so, I was like, just hedging a guess here. Would this be Dr. So and so?
Oh, did you go back and say that?
I did.
Wow.
Then they sent me 23 studies of why, in this case, it was foam rolling, why that you should foam roll, and saying, well, according to this research. And unfortunately, what that showed was one, that the person had gone straight to PubMed and just typed in foam rolling and
Yeah.
then gave me the next 23 studies. But then each study had a different question. So it wasn't about the same thing.
Yeah.
Again, we're now going completely off topic. Worse than that, every study had a bias within the question. So
Right.
it was either what's the best foam rolling exercise or stretch for lengthening the IT band or for running faster. And unfortunately, that has a bias in the question. And if you want to know how to, I don't know, feel more comfortable before you run, let's just say, or that thing, then you need to know that the question is specific. What would be the best way of improving my run time or my acceleration?
Mm.
That way you're opening it up, because if I do a study on what's the influence of an espresso and prosecco for running, it's going to tell me, but that doesn't mean that either one of those are the things that I should be doing with myself or with my
Yeah.
client. And if anybody is listening to this thinking, oh, is she saying that the foam rolling is not great? For a client, if a client walks into my door and they use a foam roller religiously and they love it, great, that's brilliant. I'm not going to charge them for that. So they need to do that in their time. But what I do need to know is that if my client is suffering from any form of chronic pain, that would definitely be a bad thing for them to be doing, because it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be continually reminding them of pain. And once you start to understand more about experiencing pain, that would not be a great thing. But maybe in the past I would have been like, why are you doing that? Whereas now I'm like, yeah, yeah. Um, I can just think of so many better ways
Yeah.
of
That's
helping
the
people
key.
move, and that's what I want. And it's the same if we go down the research around recovery. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of talk about that, but what we're doing again is we've created a solution to a problem that isn't there in the same way that
Yeah.
people are trying to solve it. If you look at what's the best way of recovering from running, stop running for a while and then run again.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is then placing in a lot of different products or methods or techniques to try and
Yeah.
get us there quicker.
Gosh, that's interesting. Really interesting. And I think most trainers, group X instructors who've been in the industry a long time have seen the cycles, they've seen the trends, they've seen all these things come and go. We've seen the products. I think most people are slightly more wary when a new product's on the market with new research. Who's done the research? What is it saying? And ultimately, what are people trying to sell us? So I think this is a really refreshing, and I think so many group exercise instructors are really now, they have the access to the research and they can go and find it, and as you say, with a little bit of understanding, can look for the right studies that are going to support further learning. I think there should be more workshops on this for sure. I really do. But
I
again,
mean,
would
this is something we spend a lot of time in motor skill application
Mhm.
specialists, because
Yeah,
it's not an easy thing just to grasp. So I have a lot of people come in and go, well, I want the research on this. And I'm like, first of all, we have to step back and go, what are you really asking
yeah,
as a question? Because we so often want to come in with what our answer is
yeah,
to this problem. So I think that I mean, it's an amazing skill to have. There's a lot of studies out there that we shouldn't even be looking
mm,
at, wasting our time. So my first process is, for anybody that is listening to this, you can do it. You can look at the research yourself, and there is places that you can go and get help. You want to be looking at the number of
mm,
people within that study, and they
mhm,
should be humans. So this is a problem when it comes to women's health. I think it's like 8% of studies are actually on women or
yeah,
females. So much of pelvic floor studies on guinea pigs.
yeah.
I'm not a rodent. So let's demand better. And I think as women, we do need to. We're not victims. We're not victims of menopause, of the climacteric period. We need to demand a better level of research. But that means we can't make it up. And so what I do see is a lot of people using the word, oh, well, it's evidence-based and
Mm,
it's research-based. And unfortunately, my dad told me that fairies were were real. I believed him on the evidence that he told me, and so we have to be really careful where we're putting that trust, because everything is evidence-based. It does not mean that it's good evidence. So check the number of the studies is done on. Check, as you said, who's paid for that study. Was it actually paid for by X company? Also the impact factor, and that's not the be all and end all, but when you read an article, it's like reading a little section from the Hello magazine.
Yeah.
So the Hello magazine is the actual journal that it's from, for those listening. That's super helpful as well. So
Yeah.
just thinking of those little things can, because if you still want to watch Netflix, you do need to go, right, that's done on rodents, I don't need to read that one,
Yeah.
move on to the next. And also when the study was done, and I'm one of these people, I'm a nightmare. I had to do my NASM so that I could present out in the US. And so I went through every single study that they were referencing. And
Gosh.
had I have not done the motor skill application specialist and had those tools from Faster, I would have thought it was really, really well researched.
Yeah.
When you start to realize they're still quoting Yander's upper cross, lower cross syndrome, but they're not looking at all of the other studies that have completely shown that was totally inaccurate. When they're not up to date on their pain science, then we can do better.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately, I don't want my clients to be experiencing pain. I want them to move more, and I want them to enjoy the experience. And that's what's brilliant about group exercise is group exercise trainers are masters at making that experience.
Yeah. Gosh, that's so interesting. Really interesting. Really good points there. You touch on presenting in the US, and I know that you are a regular presenter at IDEA. And anybody listening, IDEA is sort of the US. I mean, it was a huge convention back in the day. I've seen you there many times. I've not been since before the pandemic. I know it's changed. It's changed leadership now. It's got a different leadership team, and I know you presented this year. So it's usually they are hot off the press with trends. They usually get some of the best speakers globally there. Anything that's just kicking off in the fitness industry, it's usually at IDEA. It's such a great, amazing conference. I always love it. So you went this year. So any trends, predictions? What did you find? What did you see? How was it?
Well, I think both IDEA and I was going to say URSA, but that's the Health and Fitness Association. Now it's changed over. So that will be in Vegas in March. Obviously, what we're seeing a lot of is recovery.
Okay.
And so we're seeing a lot of the water submersions, full cold water submersions. We're seeing a lot of, I just think it's like sunbeds. Do you know? It's like that's where I started. I used to go in at 6 a.m. No, actually 5, when it was dark, before I opened up, have a couple of sunbeds. That was my recovery before the day. Obviously, I'm regretting that bit now, but so I'm trying not to be the juvenile that I was. I think it's great that there's everything there that's, looking at recovery. And I am hopeful that with research, we will get to find out better ways of helping people from recovering. I find there's a pandemic of people not moving enough.
Not moving. Whenever somebody says recovery, I think recovery. We need to get people going first before we get the recovery. What is it like? 20% of the UK population are doing regular exercise. Well, the other 80%, they don't need recovery, do they? They are fully recovered on the sofa. They need to be getting off it.
I feel like I'm being a bad influence now, Rachel.
No, we always think that, but so then you think, is it me? Am I missing the point here? Are we not getting it? Why is everyone talking about hot and cold submersion and infrared saunas when actually we need to get people going for a walk? That would be a good start, wouldn't it?
I love a spa day, I love a spa day, but I want to be able to do my session in the gym and a group exercise class. So there is a lot of that, but yeah, obviously it's nice that there's all the different types and Pilates is obviously massive,
Massive.
massive. And we've been around long enough to know that it was massive years ago, because here's another honest thing. I only did my Pilates training because when I was group exercise coordinator at Nuffield, then back then I think it was Cannons, and I only did it because I couldn't get cover. So I'm like, oh geez, like it'd be better if I could just step in and teach the class myself. So I did the Michael King mat-based Pilates back in the day, and then I went and did that out in Australia as well. So and now we're seeing all of this come back, and it's interesting because I think, what was it, 2000, that the law case was came up about Pilates, and they
The name.
decided that it was now a term that was more
So
generic.
generic, like aerobics. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I think the rise of the Pilates, I definitely think it's, again, a social media led trend. I think it's blown up so much on Instagram and TikTok that then I think that's pushed consumers to then start asking, what is this? What is this pirates? What is this gymnastics I'm seeing? And can I do that, from not doing anything ever
Yeah.
to then jumping on a reformer and doing the splits? How long will it take me to do that? So I think that's definitely social media led. Do you
Yeah.
think the same?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because obviously now you're seeing the skateboard attached to the step with a band. As though it's quite creative. And it's interesting seeing something that we were using, the reformers, years ago, being brought back in. But you know what I do like?
Right.
It's getting people into studios.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's getting people moving, and I'm all for that. Let's get people moving. And I have people that want to get better at a Pilates exercise because their mate does it, and they're quite competitive, and that's cool because I can go, right, okay, show me that move, right, okay, we'll work on these skills then, and then you can go and rock it and show your Pilates studio how good you are.
Yeah.
And that's great, because if people were saying, I want to get better at skateboarding, or I want to get better at snowboarding or skiing, brilliant, I'm all for that.
100%. Where do you see the industry going with your insight? You're working with SimSpa, you've been out in the US, you're educated. So when you're educating instructors, you're getting a good grasp of what's happening around the UK. And I do think there's lots of micro markets around the UK as well. What's working in one area is not necessarily working in another area. So when you are running education, as I am, you get a bit of a glimpse and a snapshot what's happening around the country. And with your sort of overseas experience, where do you see it all going? Where do you see us going in the next 5, 10 years, Jo?
I think it's going to have a big change actually with AI.
Mm.
There's a lot of talk about how AI will replace personal trainers. Then there's the argument of it absolutely will not.
Mm.
And actually, if you're a cookie cutter personal trainer, watch your back.
Mm.
Because I don't know if you've asked it to write a 12-week program
Absolutely.
in the style of a guru that you may know. It's really damn good at doing
Mm.
that. And so that will never take away a good personal trainer
And a good
and a
coach.
good group exercise
Mm.
coach, because those that, like yourself, Rachel, you're a communicator, you're a people person. You make sure that the experience someone has when they find you on social media or come into your online class or see you, live, whether it's at one of your classes or away. I'm trying to think where it was. Ibiza, was it that you were
Yeah,
at?
Ibiza.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those sorts of things. That will never be taken away from AI. So I really do believe that the personal skills, the communication skills are going to be more important than ever. And as you said, you can access research, so we can raise those standards. My hope, though, still is we're still failing as an industry to get inactive people active. And while we've got some amazing, amazing gyms that are high level, that are beautiful, that are stunning places to work out in, I still feel like we need to hold a hand and need to pick up those people that are getting missed.
Mm.
So my hope is that we'll start to see that more within leisure centres, within open spaces, to get more girls moving, feeling safe, feeling like they can go for a run, that they can go to the park and train when it's dark. So yeah, I'm hopeful that these things are on the mend. I'd like it to speed up a little bit.
Mm.
And seems like, from what you said as well, you do share my let's not get too upset about recovery.
I know, definitely. And I think around the country, there are lots of grassroots, community led, all sorts of initiatives happening. There
Yeah.
is funding that's trickling down. There is initiatives that Sport England are putting in place. And there are things happening in open spaces. I think these need more airtime. These are what we need to be seeing on social media. These sort of initiatives need to be being amplified so other areas can see, oh wow, that's working in Derbyshire, that's happening in a park in Ilkeston, we could be doing that. So there needs to be some, and maybe Simspur are the organization to start to bring this together. Maybe they are, but these things do take time and the industry is moving so quick, isn't it? And the sad thing I think, and probably you see it as well, we have some amazing group fitness teachers, amazing trainers who have lost heart and have lost their passion for lots of different reasons and are now stopping, retiring. They're going to take a nice little part-time job at Rolls-Royce. They're going to work in hospitality at Network Rail because they get, great perks. They work 6 till 3 or whatever. They're on flexi time. They can have 2 days at home. So we are losing some great people to, especially in my area. I live in Derbyshire. So we have two huge employees, Rolls-Royce and Network Rail. And so many great teachers have gone across to those employees because it's so much more attractive, and they're looked after so much better. And I just think that's such a shame. And it's a shame that Simspar and other organizations can't move a little bit faster. Do you see the same as well
I
with some of
think
the?
what you just said is beautiful, because it really hits on a couple of issues that we have within the industry, and that is group exercise being undervalued within the gym. And obviously that's was highlighted with COVID, because they really kept things going.
Yeah.
They were able to set out their own companies, and they were let down in many, many ways. Everybody wanted to take a little bit from them. I mean, I know that if I was to go back and teach within a club now, I would have been on a higher pay rate 25 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, so, and again, for personal training, people were making a good living out of personal training, whereas now many of them aren't.
Yeah.
And in America, that is a real problem, because someone might feel safer to be a barista
Mm.
because they don't have to pay to qualify. They can get a job straight away, and they're going to be earning the same amount of money on many
Mm.
occasions.
Mm.
And so, I think that we need to see people valuing their team. That
Mm.
would be really nice, and get that pay rate up.
I hope so. I mean, you must see this well in the PT world. We have PTs who are like yourself training in gardens, open spaces. We have PTs that are working in clubs. And then we have a new level of PT who now are operating online. They have mass amounts of clients. They are running these big programs there. You see them all the time on Instagram, Facebook, 20K, 30K, 50K months, come and let me be your mentor and your coach, and you too can be a trainer and earn all this money with all online on this laptop lifestyle. Do you think it exists, Joe? Do you think this level of PT, do you think it's really there, or is this something else that the gurus are selling to PTs, a bit of an illusion?
I think there's a lot of the upsell of the illusion. There is, of course, the cookie cutter. They're not personal trainers. They're just churning out. I mean, it kind of reminds me back in the day when I first started PT, when you'd put someone through a generic assessment, probably on the bike, get them to blow in a pipe, and then you put it in computer and it was like A, B, or C program, and then everybody had the same program. Um, that's not personal training. It's not connecting with that person. It's not knowing when they did their under breath sigh, when their face lit up because you chose their favorite exercise at just the right time in the session, that it was perfect timing, not by accident, but you knew exactly what button you were pressing in them. That's where we get to personal training, and that comes from finding out their goal, listening to them, not the very first thing they say, because that's never what anybody means. The
Mm.
first thing you say, oh yeah, I want to lose weight, I want to grow muscles. Like, yeah, you've got to get like 100 layers below all of that and really get to know what makes that person tick. And that's where AI cannot take over
Yeah.
yet. I mean, that might be the case. So for me, personal training, group exercise is all about that real time response. And
Mm.
so I don't get my kicks from that. I'm sure some people do. And I going back to what you were saying about, getting people moving, I actually think that we can learn a lot from those really good influencers, because like it or not, whether you like their routines or not, they are getting people moving.
Mm.
And what I love is I'm opposite a school, and the amount of girls I see in the playground doing their little dances,
Oh,
and
do
stuff
you?
like that.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like they've got their phone by the tree and they're about eight, like doing that. And I'm like, actually, we need to meet technology
Yeah.
where it is and use it. And if that does get people going, maybe we should have some TikTok, dance trend classes and things like
That's a
that.
good idea. Great idea.
I'll leave
Mm.
that one to you though. My dancing skills aren't very
I know. Oh, Joe, what a lovely conversation. Joe, where can people find out more about you, what you're doing, your new course, and how they can just come over and say hello?
Well, I'm around. Joanne Groves is my name everywhere. On Instagram, the O of Groves is
Oh,
a
yeah.
zero. Yeah,
That's it's a
okay.
zero, isn't it? Yeah.
Someone had my name. Joanne Groves on TikTok, and anyone can reach out to me on email at joe@joannegroves.com.
And your female group on Facebook, can group fitness teachers join that as well, or just for PTs?
100% group exercise, Pilates, yoga, everybody's welcome. And the aim of the page is just to help support each other and to see if we are looking at the best levels of research.
Oh, great. So people should definitely go and pop into there. And lastly, when are you doing your next course? Can anyone jump onto that?
Well, I'm actually going to be starting next week. So if anyone
Okay.
does want to jump on, then they can let me know. And I can also give them a little discount code from coming from your podcast as
Fabulous.
well. So they can
Do you do it live face to face or is it a Zoom? How do you run
So
it?
it works with there's videos to
Mm,
watch. There is also ebooks, and then we have a live weekly call with me, but that's on Zoom. So,
got
but
it.
yeah, so that people can actually ask me
Mm,
something that's specific about their client. So it doesn't have to be, you've got the textbook stuff that we need to get through, but we want it to be personal to each and every client. So that's really good, and it means that if you come back, you get to come back and people ask different questions
mm.
all the time. And we've got a new module on how you use the motor skill process to help those going through the climacteric period. And that's awesome because it helps us just stay in our lane, but also know everything that we need to know about that 30-year span.
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely. Well, thank you very much, John. I appreciate your time. Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much for having me.
No, you're very welcome.